Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome into Morning in the Valley. I am Jeff Bidwell. It is August the 11th as we are T-minus 12 Mondays away from the start of the college basketball season. It feels, I don't know, maybe it's because the kids are going back to school. Our parents, you know the feeling. Get out. We've enjoyed your time for the last 3 months. Get out. But now that process has begun, school has begun, it is now time to start just peeking ahead to November. And it's almost here, November 3rd, 84 days away, 12 Mondays from now, it will be go time, and very much looking forward to that. Coming up in about 9 minutes or so, we're going to talk with Joe Sullivan. He is the former sports editor of the Boston Globe, now lives in Nashville, writes for Main Street Nashville, and a beat writer for the Belmont Bruins. And so we're going to get some thoughts from Joe on what the Bruins will bring to the table in 25-26. Finally made it to, I say finally, in year 3 in the Valley, made it to Saturday in year 3 back in March. Got tripped up by Drake, the eventual Arch Madness champion, in the semifinals, and looking to get back to Saturday and beyond this year for Casey Alexander's bunch. So we'll talk with Joe Sullivan coming up at about 9:10 today. If you haven't done so already, please head to YouTube, subscribe to the show for free. Comment, share, like, all that good stuff. Subscribe to Morning in the Valley. Easy to find. We've got all the past shows, interview clips, and so on there to be found. And so appreciate your continued coverage of that for us over there as we continue to get this program to grow. Wednesday, there will be no program due to circumstances that are unimportant for this platform on this day, but no program Wednesday. Friday we will be back. We will talk with the Hall of Fame announcer, formerly, I say formerly, he will always be a Saluki at heart, former SIU play-by-play man Mike Reese, the Hall of Famer. He will be with us as we're going to talk about Mike Glenn. SIU announcing last week that Mike Glenn's number 34 will soon be the third number retired in the history of the men's basketball program. And Mike Glenn played just before Mike started his 40-year run as the play-by-play man of the Salukis. But Mike was on campus as a student reporter at the time, and so he certainly is as the wealth of historical knowledge as anybody walking God's green earth today about the SIU basketball program, and going to get his thoughts on Mike Glenn. We will also, on Monday, we will hear from Murray State head coach Ryan Miller after his successful trip to the Bahamas, at least from the outside. Scoreboard says it was successful, 3 for 3 in wins down there, and the international tour for the Racers. So we'll talk with Coach Miller next Monday, and we'll hear from him next Monday about his trip. All right, headlines for today. And, you know, it was back on, it was April the 23rd. The Belmont men's basketball program threw out a graphic that said, here we are, and we're ready to go. Here's our 14 names, and this is our 2025-26 roster, and let's roll. Well, obviously, in the era of the house settlement and revenue share, that everybody can have 15 on their roster now. And so that 14 kind of hung out there if you're paying attention to it, like, well, maybe could they do something? You don't have to use all 15, but it's there if an opportunity presented itself. And over the weekend, an opportunity most certainly presented itself as Casey Alexander has gotten a late commitment from Graydon Lemke. He was a walk-on at Gonzaga last year, did not play with the Zags, but he is all of 6'10", and he will come to Nashville as a project, certainly, and not a project that they need anything out of him right now, just due to the fact that they have plenty of bigs who are ready to roll right now with Brigham Rogers and Drew Sharnowski and Sam Orm. And so he's got plenty of guys to work with, plenty of guys to get better with, but comes in, you can't teach 6'10". And so he's going to come in here and get an opportunity to work and develop. And we'll see. Maybe he gets some time this year, but certainly somebody that this is a sort of a long game process there for Coach Alexander. After he entered the portal, again, he was a walk-on at Gonzaga, entered the portal. I mean, he heard from Yahoo reporting. He heard from Minnesota, Northern Arizona, Montana State, Tarleton State, Central Arkansas, Elon, and he lands in Nashville at Belmont. So now we can say Belmont's roster is officially finished with their 15th edition by the name of Graydon Lemke. On the women's side, we have a 2026 commitment for Illinois State, as this is Madison Young. She is a 5'9" forward out of South Oldham High School in Louisville, Kentucky. She was offered this. We talk a lot, and I probably bang on this drum more often than not. You see on the men's side, sort of some short courtships where, hey, kid gets offered, maybe 3 weeks later, he's going to commit. On the women's side, sometimes it takes years. This was a shorter courtship. May the 4th, Kristen Gillespie offering Madison Young, and she has now committed to the Redbirds. Had offers from a lot of Ohio Valley, some Missouri Valley schools, Tennessee Tech, Eastern Kentucky, Tennessee Martin, Toledo, SIU, Edwardsville. Murray State offered her 3 years ago, so that was a definite long game. But in the end, Madison Young, the 5'9" forward, is heading to Illinois State. Last year, as a junior for South Oldham, averaged 18.5 points per game. Not much of a three-point shooter, shot 34%, just not a volume shooter there, 50% from the field, 8.5 rebounds as well. So, by all means, as the kids like to say, a good get for Kristen Gillespie up there at Illinois State. All right, time to welcome in our guest. He is the former sports editor of the Boston Globe, now writes for Main Street Nashville, covers the Belmont program, and he is Joe Sullivan. Good morning to you, sir. How are things in Nashville, Tennessee today?
Too hot. I guess it's the same up where you are too. So
yes, it is. I am wanting basketball season to get here just so it's not. We're starting at 90, and we as a fair-skinned ginger here. This is just this. It's workers' comp every day, just walking outside.
And someone who lived in Boston for 25 years, 90 degrees happens maybe twice a year up in Boston, and of course. So this is, it's hard to endure at times down here, but I love Nashville. Don't get me wrong.
All right, so here we are. We just we're just talking briefly about the addition of Graydon Lemke, the 6'10", I say transfer, walked on at Gonzaga, but sort of a late addition. We hear sometimes some late July additions. We get a late August addition for Casey Alexander, and this just feels like not anybody we're going to probably see play this year, but this is a long game, high upside play. Am I reading that right?
I think you're reading that right. But keep this in mind. It was July of last year. They got a commitment from a former walk-on at TCU by the name of Tyler Lumblade,
yes.
who we thought would, he's not going to help them either. And then he went on to lead the nation in three-point shooting. So, I mean, Casey Alexander has a great, I guess we'll call it a skill, or maybe it's an innate sense of players that are going to fit his system and possibly help him. So I think we should I think you're right. I mean, I read it the exact same way, but based on what happened with Tyler Lumblade last summer and into what the type of season he had, I guess we'll wait and see a little bit. But they do have, I don't see, you expressed it exactly right, Jeff. I mean, they have a lot of really good, skilled big people that I would have a hard time believing that he would move ahead of.
Speaking of Tyler Lumblade, I got a chance to talk to him probably a month or so ago, and just a remarkable story for all the stops he's been at and all the stops he has walked on at, and then ultimately earned scholarships at all of those places is remarkable. But to see what he did last year, to your point, last summer, we didn't expect anything. Didn't even know who this kid was, and then suddenly he's America's best three-point shooter. From now going into year 2, what are your expectations for him? What do you want to see out of him this year to see, hey, there's another level for him to get to?
Well, it may be hard. They're going to be a lot more of a focus on him this season than there was last season. And I think teams will look to prevent him. And not that they were toward the end of last season also, and he was able to get his points and his attempts, his opportunities. But I think it's going to be a challenge for him to repeat the same season. If he does, then we know someone who's really worked hard at his game. And, his story is one that, and we've written it in Main Street Nashville about how he was really almost ground up in the dog-eat-dog world of college basketball, where he would walk on, earn scholarships, and then have it yanked away from him, both at SMU and TCU. It's unfair, really, when it happened to him. And then to land almost accidentally at Belmont, and for what happened to him last season, it really was a great story. Now, he didn't go into the transfer portal, but I know he had people talking to him about moving away from Belmont. And, Casey, being a realistic person, realized that was a possibility. But I believed, after talking to Tyler a lot after last year, that he felt such loyalty to Casey because he finally got into a situation where he could play and succeed and contribute to a winning team. I couldn't believe he would leave. I mean, loyalty still counts a little bit in this world, doesn't it, Jeff?
A little, and sometimes, sometimes we're as loyal as our paycheck. And look, as adults, we all know that as well. But we've seen, I mean, heck, Casey had as good of a trio potentially coming back 2 years ago, and then they all departed for greener pastures. And so it is kind of a refreshing change to see a kid like Tyler, who just had such a year, to be like, oh, we actually get 2 years out of him.
And Tyler was personally grateful to Casey for the opportunity, and that's what made me think I don't think he would have left. But it is the present time that we live in that doesn't really count for a lot all the time. But look, he's going to be he's going to be one of their leading scorers. I don't want to predict he's going to be their leading scorer because I think teams will focus on him. But he's a threat. He's the best 3-point shooter in the Valley. And will he be the best 3-point shooter in the country again? I guess we'll see about that. He may be up there. He certainly has a great form, and he proved it last season by making what was 48% of his threes.
Just unbelievable. Do you see a diversification in his offensive game? I mean, can you play that out? I mean, look, everybody's going to try and chase him off the line, and it's going to be what can you do from there.
Yeah. We didn't really see a lot of that last season, but it is this is the time of year when they're working on that type of thing. So I guess we'll get a look at it early in the season to see if he has. He's going to be an important player for them.
The team as a whole last year, finally, and again, you going into the year, you wonder what the expectations are when you lose the likes of a Dyson and a Gillespie and a Dia, and then suddenly it's okay. They're still Belmont. And they're going to win 20 games. We know that, and you go. But year 3 in the Valley, they kick the door in to get to the weekend at least. Is there a sense around the program that was a tangible step forward to get to the weekend, or is it still we're not satisfied with weekends and we're trying to cut nets down in the end?
No, absolutely. It's about cutting nets down for Belmont. They're not satisfied, and yet I would say this: that Casey Alexander is a confident person who feels that they're going to get there. Maybe this season. There are some key question marks for them whether they have the personnel to do that. But what they do have is what we talked about a little earlier: is these skilled bigs that and. The three of them, we used to Brigham Rogers and Sam Orm are the starters, and then Drew Sarnowski off the bench. Those are 6'9" guys who are all athletic. Sarnowski hasn't shown any ability yet to have an outside game, nor has Rogers. But so let's talk about Orm. This is when I was thinking about when you were asking about what kind of season Lumblade could have, and would he be like the team's leading scorer? Sam Orm, to me, is the player with the highest ceiling on this team because he does have an inside-out game. He does have diversity in his game. He rebounds fairly well. This is a kid that the ceiling is very high, and stardom is a strong possibility for him. All league honors are a possibility for him. Now, he has to improve. I'm projecting when I'm saying that. But I just love his game. And so now you have two pieces right there. That give Belmont a very interesting start, Lumblade and Orm as two pieces right there.
I have been, and this is probably from my up close and personal PTSD of watching Drew Sarnowski just murder Murray State last year on a couple of occasions, especially in Murray. And so I have taken him as sort of my outside flyer to look out. This kid, I've seen the ceiling. It's how many times can he get there outside of just playing the racers? Do you see that with him, sort of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You talk about that, athletic ability. We said he doesn't show in an outside game, but around the basket, in the paint, very athletic, and he can block shots defensively. It is, if you had talked about who would be, what the danger would be in terms of the transfer portal for Belmont, and how can you not talk about that based on what's happened to him in the past few years? He would be someone I think bigger schools would have targeted if he was interested in moving on. Now, I've had that conversation with people at Belmont, and they tell me, after cringing and in pain, would say, no, his parents moved to Nashville when he enrolled at Belmont, and he's invested in Belmont, and so that's good. But he could have a breakout year. So you have Orm, Shodnowski, breakout year, possibly, and Lundblade repeating it. I think this. We still need to get to the key questions here for Belmont, which I'm prepared to talk about. But with those three, and Rogers, a solid big guy, they have pieces to be a contender, I think, even though we know that, Illinois State looks loaded, and Bradley we have to sort of count on as a contender, and Murray State, or Creighton West, East, as we like to say. I got to get my geography correct. Creighton East. So those look like contenders to me, and I think Belmont is among that group. So, shall we talk about it?
I will allow you to interview yourself here. What is your biggest question?
Who's going to be the lead guard here? Carter Witt was an outstanding lead guard. He was like third team All Valley, I think, something like that. And they need someone who's going to direct all these other talented players we talk about. And so, who's it going to be? So the possibilities are, it starts with Nick McLean, who's a graduate transfer from Eastern Washington, whose big brother played at Belmont a while ago on an NCAA tournament team, actually, at Belmont when they were in the OVC. And so he is going to, I think he gets the first chance. He's self-admitted. I talked to him this summer. He's all about making his teammates better. He's about passing the ball and finding good shots for his teammates. And that's exactly what they need. Now, I did not see Eastern Washington play last season. I'm not sure did you, Jeff?
I did not.
So I don't know. He's talking a good game. So we'll see. He averaged about 10 points a game and almost 4 assists a game at Eastern Washington last year. And then the other X factor is Isaiah West, who was a highly recruited player out of high school that went to Vanderbilt. And as a freshman under Jerry Stackhouse at Vanderbilt, he started, I'm thinking, about 8 games as a freshman in the SEC, and then he transferred to Samford, and they disappeared into the unlimited rotation that was Bucky McMillan's at Samford, and he didn't have big numbers coming out of Samford. He didn't follow Bucky to Texas A&M. Instead, he came back home to Nashville, where he's from, and so he's going to be, he's a key component too in the backcourt. Isaiah West and Nick McLean. Those are the 2 transfers they're really relying on to help make this team a real contender in the Valley.
Isaiah Walker transferred out to Xavier. I think his dad played there once upon a time. And
yes,
he was just one of those guys where you'd watch and you're like, he didn't really jump off the screen, didn't have exceptional athleticism, didn't seem to do anything great. And then you'd look up at the end of the night and it was like, well, he had another 13 points and 8 rebounds and just kind of the glue guy that did everything you needed him to do. His departure, how much of an impact do you think that's going to have, especially early with this team as it tries to find its way?
Yeah, and also leadership factor in with him, and it's difficult to measure, but a necessity in any locker room and on the court. And he was a Casey Alexander favorite. It was I like to each year when I'm looking at teams here in Nashville, I like to see who's the coach's pet. And Isaiah was Casey's pet. He loved them. I think in Casey's words, he does everything I ask him to do. So that part, and it's a vacuum left for him in leadership, in terms of hustle and glue guy, like you said, and also a very, a good student, a smart guy. However, when he left, it was like, we wish you well, the Belmont people. It was an amicable parting, and we'll see. I have a tough time believing that he will contribute at Xavier, to be honest. It seems like there's a guy where Belmont was a great spot for him. He had a coach that loved him and knew how to use him. So we'll see. He may make me wrong by doing well at Xavier, but the leadership factor and the sort of the stats that aren't compiled, he's valuable that way. He was valuable that way. So we'll see if they can somehow make up for that with other people.
This is always hard to answer, but I'll ask anyway, just in terms of the new era we're living in and this revenue sharing and the opting in and all that good stuff and NIL and so on. And how, from your time around the program, just how are they managing right now and trying to not only survive, but thrive in this era? Don't have to worry about football. There's no worry about trying to peel off some sort of money for that, like some other schools in the conference. But how do you think they're handling the new era here?
All right. So first, can you and I make a pledge, Jeff, together
Yes.
to stop calling it NIL? Because that's not what it is.
It's professional. We're being paid to play. That's it.
Right. I mean, it started as NIL, which I understand, but it's become something else, as we know. It is anyway. So can Belmont get enough money to pay their players is what we're talking about. And I think their goal is to be competitive in the Valley. I think they have a plan. I don't think it's easy for them. In this market, if you're looking for big boosters, they're going in a different direction to Vanderbilt, perhaps. Mm-hmm. So it is, but I do think they're comfortable with where they're at. I don't know exact numbers or even specific boosters, but I would say from what my indications I get from Casey and the other people at the school, they're comfortable. They're moving in the right direction. They think they're going to be competitive in the Valley in terms of being able to pay their players.
I think the House settlement, one of the fine print points to this that I think Valley teams can take advantage of is signing these kids to multi-year contracts, which with the most important piece of it being contractual buyouts. That if North Carolina wants to come get Cade Tyson, you're going to have to pay us for the right to take him away from us. And that's going to, they've got the money to spend. And it's like, hey, if that's $500,000 or $1 million, and look, the deep sigh, I get all of it, but it's like, right now it feels like to me, and it's maybe not a year, or maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, the money isn't as much about going to get guys. It's about being able to retain guys. And that's the battle for our level, is just trying to, when you find these diamonds in the rough and you develop them, you want to be able to keep them. You got to have some, figuratively, some bullets in the gun to kind of hold everybody off, and haven't had that so far.
It's a great, interesting proposal or a thought that money would exchange hands when teams lose. The lower levels moving to the Power Four.
Right.
It strikes me as like international soccer. It's
transfer fee. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an intriguing idea, and it wouldn't be wrong. It wouldn't be wrong.
It looks like we have survived another year, at least 25-26 of potential tournament expansion until 26 and 27 when they finally get their ducks in a row to get it done. Where's your traditionalist heart?
You sense it, right? Let's go back to 64 is what I say. Look, you and I are old enough to remember, 32. Are you old that? Are you that old?
I'm 50. I remember. Yes.
So, it's one thing we shouldn't, I guess, it's evolved over the years, and we should accept that it might be evolving again. So I will say this. I wish it was 64. I wish that schools like the Valley got their due. And, it's outrageous. Indiana State didn't get in 2 seasons ago. So would expansion mean that a school like Indiana State would now get in? Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, referenced them when he talked about expansion. I always have my doubts because the power schools are so greedy. They want it all to themselves, and it's everyone lives in fear that Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, is going to say, I'm just going to start my own tournament and declare the SEC champion the national champion in all sports. He might do that. So I'm concerned about this, but I think small extent. You know who's written great? Joe Lunardi from ESPN, who we know is the bracketologist, but he's a very good writer, and he wrote about. I guess it was during last season about what's acceptable. A little bit of expansion to 76, if it would save the tournament basically in the same format that we have now, is worth it to avoid going to 96 or even worse, the Power Four schools leaving completely and deciding we're just going to have our own tournament. Murray State, Bradley, Belmont, Virginia Commonwealth. We don't care about you anymore. You don't count. So it is. If that's the choice faced with, then we'll accept the expansion to 76. They seem determined to do it. However, they two things at work here. They have to. It has to be financially beneficial to them, and right now it doesn't seem like it is. And then also the women's tournament has to be expanded as well. And the women's tournament, women's sports is on the rise. It's been almost a phenomenon. But the fact is, the NCAA women's tournament loses money, and can they afford to expand that too? That's a factor here. So if we can hold on to 68, I'd be happy. Jeff, I'm babbling here, but every year I take a trip up to the first four because an old friend of mine, my college roommate, is his Dayton season ticket holder, and we go on. And I love the first four. I've gotten to love the first four. That's my point. Even though I would say let's go back to 64.
I love college basketball more than anything. And I don't know that I spend 7 minutes total watching the first four on Tuesday. I just don't. Like if it's not, like, honestly, the one time I watched it was in 2019 when Belmont was in and we were the 2-bid OVC. And I was like, well, I'm interested in Belmont and that's it. Yeah. But just the random, Boise State, Wyoming, like I can't bring myself to care. And that's where, and I think that's the whole thing about the money is that the TV's like, well, there's no added value. We'll give you the space to show the games, but we're not giving you more money for them. And so then there's the pieces of the pie get smaller, and that's the fight. So until somebody decides to pony up some more cash, maybe we stay at 68, but time will tell. Joe Sullivan from Main Street, Nashville. All right, before I let you go, we're still probably 2 months out before preseason poll. Who's number one for you, and where are you sliding Belmont in?
Yeah, preseason polls were always difficult to begin with. In this day and age, they're impossible. But I think Illinois State stands out as the favorite. I think we're probably, when we do the poll, that's who we're going to vote for. And I think Bradley, they're two good guards returning. I like them. The guards came, Bunch and why am I forgetting the name of the freshman?
Quan Johnson.
Thank you. Very talented. I think they take over the backcourt this year. So I think Bradley will be good. I saw they just got it pretty recently. They got a big JC commitment.
Yes.
And so I'll have them up there, and I will have Creighton East up there also with all those transfers. Like Ryan Miller's really putting together a formidable team, and boy, they crushed them in the Bahamas, huh? And then I think Northern Iowa's always got to be one of your top teams. Yeah. And then Belmont. So that would be my top five, I think, pretty much is the way I look at it right now.
He's Joe Sullivan, Main Street, Nashville. Follow him on X at Globe Sullivan. Joe, thank you so much for doing this morning, and hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. There's Joe Sullivan and Creighton East. He's not wrong. he's not wrong. It's a. I really feel like it's going to be Illinois State. I mean, I think that we're 2 months out, and I think they're going to be the one. They're going to be the one, and then it's kind of. And I just sitting here thinking about it, it's like, all right, so we've got, if you kind of just group off the top six in some order, it's all right. So you got Illinois State, you've got Bradley, you got Northern Iowa, you've got Murray State. I already feel like I'm forgetting some people. Illinois State, Belmont, is Drake got to be in there. The defending champs. I just feel like you've got until proven otherwise. Coaching changes, new roster. Okay, they need to be in that conversation. Is SIU in the mix this year? Is UIC in the mix this year at all? There's there's going to be a lot of disagreement, I think, once you get past one, because and that has been preordained since the end of March and early April, when it's like everybody's back and okay, that you guys are number one, and then we'll kind of roll from there. But 84 days, I can't wait, cannot wait, and it's time to roll. Speaking of Drake, as we roll through some other headlines of the morning, our friend Rocco Miller reporting that Drake will host North Dakota State this year in non-conference action. No date to be announced yet. No contractual info about that game as of yet, but it'll be Drake and North Dakota State in Des Moines. Eric Henderson, of course, spent 6 years as the head coach at South Dakota State, quite familiar with the North Dakota State program, met 14 times in those 6 years, twice in the Summit Tournament, 8-6 overall as a head coach against North Dakota State, and he'll get a chance to tack on win number 9 at some point later on this winter. So Drake's non-conference schedule starting to come together now. Home games with North Dakota State, UAB, which will be a good one, SIU Edwardsville coming in, the defending Ohio Valley Conference tournament champion. Neutral site games. They're going to get Northern Arizona down in South Carolina, part of the field of 68 opening day marathon. Destin, one of those Florida situations down there around Thanksgiving. They're going to open up with LSU, which should be a good game, a big year for Matt McMahon, former Murray State coach down at LSU, and then getting the either Georgia Tech or DePaul in game number 2, and then a road game, a home and home, opening up with Charleston on the road. So a nice schedule of a nice mix of a schedule for Eric Henderson. Still not completed there in year number 1 for him at Drake, but starting to come together, Pepper. Starting to come together. All right, and we close up this morning with time to hop on the soapbox of crankiness about the Players Era Festival, as organizers announcing the Players Era Festival will swell again. 32 teams coming up in 2026. Now, for the uninitiated, the Players Era Festival was an NIL brainchild, played out in Las Vegas. Last year was the first year. There were 8 teams that were competing for, I believe at the time, it was $1 million of NIL money. And the winner made $500,000, and then it kind of trickled down from there. This year, there will be 18 teams in that tournament. And from the details of this event are generally sketchy. Like you kind of pull some kernels here, there, and everywhere. But now it appears each team is making at least $1 million. And whether we want to call it NIL, whether it's just going into the bank for revenue sharing purposes, what have you, teams, brands specifically, are going to Las Vegas over Thanksgiving week and going to play in this event. There are 18 games, 18 teams, so 9 matchups. Everybody gets 2 games, and then they basically through they'll sort them by record, and then from there they sort them from point differential and points scored, points allowed, whatever tiebreakers they need to do to get to a final 4 teams, and those are the ones that play for the big cash prize, semifinals and finals. But everybody getting 4 games against, again, brand names out in Las Vegas. Next year, 18 becomes 32. And ultimately what this 32 will do is, if it has not already, if it has already not just dropped a grenade on Feast Week and multi-team events all around the country that we have loved for ever and ever and ever, amen, that grenade is now pretty much an atomic bomb. And we have already seen, I believe this year it was I always get them backwards. I think it's the Myrtle Beach Invitational that went away. Charleston Classic stayed. Myrtle Beach went away. The Diamond Head Classic has gone away. The Maui Invitational is now a much less than tournament than it once was. That one's a little different because really outside of Chaminade, the host, playing it, it was pretty much 7 power schools playing. But these tournaments, and whether it was, it's the Battle for Atlantis, it's Charleston, it's Myrtle Beach, we're at the Virgin Islands, wherever it may be, is that it allowed, you get a couple power schools, you get a couple mid-majors in there. You might sneak a low major or two in as well. It gave opportunities to the mid-majors at the very least. And just looking at it through the Missouri Valley Conference prism, it gave an opportunity to the Missouri Valley schools on a neutral site to get their shot at the big boys. And last year, Drake, for the life of me, can't remember where they were, but, they go down, they beat Miami of Florida, who ultimately had a terrible year, but they beat Miami of Florida. They beat Florida Atlantic. I believe they beat Vanderbilt as well. Those are opportunities that are now suddenly going to become fleeting. 3 years ago, 2022, Murray State goes to Myrtle Beach. They beat Texas A&M, who was ranked at the time. Those are games you are not getting unless you go to their place. And that's if they even want to welcome you in. Because in the end, it may be like, this isn't good for us, so we're just going to go play team number 350 in the country. I saw someone opine yesterday that the Players Era Festival may be worse for college basketball than tournament expansion. And it's like, yeah, maybe. Maybe as much as pearls clutching as we are all doing about tournament expansion, an opportunity here for 32 brand names, 32 big boys, because outside of, and they have not, to my knowledge, they have not determined the 32 teams. I know there are some teams that have pledged that, hey, we're coming or we're going back again, what it may be. Outside of a team from the Missouri Valley going to the Final Four, going to the championship game, bringing people back, which if they get that far, you can almost guarantee that's not happening. Would that brand name be enough to earn an invite to the Players Era Festival? And as I have said before, it is, not only is this taking away opportunities for mid-major teams to play these big boys, but the big boys are just going to go play themselves, and they're going to get paid a bunch of money to play those games. So it is just making the chasm between the mids and the highs that much greater. And it's also, as much as we want teams to get into this type of event from the Missouri Valley, is it beneficial to the league as a whole if Drake gets in and they're the only one? And then Drake gets $1 million added into their kitty to go get more players. Well, now there's a separation of, well, they got $1 million. We didn't have any chance to get, and again, in the end, this is just Hunger Games, and you've got to do what's best for you, and you can't worry about the masses in the league and all of that. It's going to be tough for one of our schools to get into an event like this because they would rather have a middle of the road power school that has a brand name attached to it. Would they rather have Drake or would they rather have Penn State? They'd probably take Penn State because you can get a whole lot more people to show up to Vegas that love Penn State than you probably can for Drake. Maybe there's just enough casuals. There's enough casual Penn State people to wander in than probably the Drake hardcores that would love to make the trip. And in the end, it's all about how many butts and seats we can get, how many people can come stay in hotels and spend money in casinos, all that good stuff. And when you just have an alumni base that is so mammoth, the sidewalk alumni, as they used to say about Notre Dame all the time, these power schools that may not be great at basketball, but boy, they can bring some people. Are they more interested in bringing those people in, or are they more interested in good basketball, or are they more interested in good money? And I think we know the answer to that. Now, they're getting some big schools to come out there. No question about that. Big-time basketball programs. No question about that. But there's going to be some instances they got to fill some slots. And who are they going to fill those slots with? And I feel very comfortable in believing that none of those slots will be filled by anybody out of the Missouri Valley Conference, or really anybody from the mid-major world. Most likely. I believe San Diego State is. I don't even think of San Diego State as a mid-major. I guess technically they are, not being in one of the Power Four schools, but that's a team that played for a national championship, and that is really what it's going to have to take to be able to get to at least for one day present your brand as big enough to be able to be included with these guys. So enjoy wherever MTE your team may be at this year, and enjoy if you get an opportunity to play some big boys. Drake going down, they're going to get LSU. Great. They're going to get Georgia Tech and DePaul, some brand names. Great. Maybe not great basketball programs, but those days are quickly getting away. And mid-majors are going to have to evolve, and they're going to have to figure out a way to combat this in this world where metrics are more important than anything. And if they want to be able to compete for those almighty bids to the NCAA tournament, expansion or not, if they want to compete for those at-larges, they're going to have to find a way to combat it, because right now these will be 32 teams. This year it's 18. Next year it's 32, where you're getting 4 games, and you're against high-level competition, and that's from a non-conference standpoint. That's all you can ask for. And teams that may be risk-averse and they don't want to schedule hard, well, maybe they'll schedule a little harder because they know they're getting a 7-figure check at the end of the day, and that argument wins most these days in pretty much every walk of life. All right, that does it for this morning's edition of Morning in the Valley. Glad you were with us today. Thanks to Joe Sullivan, the Belmont Bruin beat writer for the Main Street Nashville. Glad he was with us today. Again, no show on Wednesday. We will be back on Friday. We will talk with the Hall of Fame broadcaster, former SIU play-by-play man, Mike Reese, talk about the state of the Salukis, but also, most importantly, get his thoughts on Southern Illinois announcing the jersey retirement of number 34, Mike Glenn, at a date to be determined later on this season. But we'll talk with Mike coming up on Friday. If you haven't done so already, glad you've been with us today. Head to YouTube, subscribe to Morning in the Valley, share. It's free. Share, comment, like, all that stuff, and help us continue to grow this show, as we are now 84 days away from the start of the college basketball season. Thanks for watching today. We will see you Friday morning right here on Morning in the Valley.